So this again is an issue that we are looking into as the Kenyan Peasants League Women Articulation, to ensure that now men are understanding the work women are putting in the fields to produce food, and to ensure that when they are making decisions on the taking the produce to the market, what is left in the homestead, the women should be included in these decisions.
Hello, I'm Layne Hartsell with the Korea IT Times, and I'm here with Susan Owiti of the Kenyan Peasants League. She's the Secretary General involved with Women and the Land. Hi, Susan. How are you?
I'm fine.
Nice to see you.
Okay. Yeah, good to see you too.
Can you talk a little bit about your work? Yeah, I know there's going to be a little delay because of you're in Nairobi.
Yes. So, like I mentioned, I'm Susan Owiti from Kenyan Peasants League. I'm a smallholder food producer. I'm also a feminist. I'm an activist. And ideally, sometimes I'm in Nairobi, sometimes I'm in my rural home. So it depends with also the work we do. And also it depends with the, maybe like currently I'm in Nairobi, but I'll be traveling soon to my village here. Thank you.
So how did you get involved with the land? Can you talk about the land rights and how this works?
Okay, what happened is that KPL ideally was formed in 2016 during a meeting that took place in Nairobi on WTMC 10. But the women articulation in KPL was formed in 2018.
Okay.
The women articulation in KPL was formed in 2018. And during the formation of the women articulation, we were having one of our dialogues that was happening in Migori. And one of the issues that emerged was the issue of land grabbing targeting widows. So being the women articulation and being a champion of women, I got interested to learn more about the widows who were affected by the land grabbing in Migori, because ideally the meeting was happening in Migori by then. Mm-hmm. So during the meeting, we got some testimonies of women who were chased out of the land by the in-laws. And that is where the journey of land rights on women started. It started in 2018. So during that time, we documented some of the cases regarding women land rights. And what came out was that most of the women were being chased out of the land, especially widows. So in Migori, we documented like 5 cases by then. And then in Siaya, where I come from, says the hometown where I'm born. Also, there were a lot of cases coming out on widows, not only being chased out of land, but also some of the issues that were emerging, that we got 2 cases of widows who were killed with the issues surrounding land. So we documented the cases as well. Mm-hmm. In my hometown in Siaya, one was killed by there's something called wife inheritance. So the woman was killed by someone who inherited her. And then the other case was of the woman who was killed by the son due to issue of land. So to us, we felt that it was important to start advocacy around women land rights, because we felt that now most of the widows were being affected, women were being affected, and nothing was being done around it. So we started now focusing on the issues of land rights, which again now became broader. It was not about the widows also. But again, realize we also had young women, we also had married women, and also divorced ones. So again, realized that all of them were facing challenges when it comes to land rights. And that is where we started documenting the cases. So during the 2020, there was a case study we did with Coventry University on women communal land rights. And out of the study, a lot of issues emerged around women and land. So there you realize that it was not only about widows, but again, it was also about other women. Like now, the young women were saying that most of they're being denied access to land, so meaning they cannot farm in it with the norm that they will be married somewhere. So that one became a very big problem. If you are a young girl and you cannot access your family land for farming, then it means there is a problem. And then we had the married women again. Realized that women being the custodians of the land. So the married again, we're talking about not only being involved with the land ownership document, but also being denied access to land, which again led to some of them looking for places to borrow loans to lease land for farming. So this one was again another problem because in the process realized that most of them, I think in Sia we had one case of a woman who committed suicide because of borrowing a loan to lease her land, but she was not aware of the terms and conditions of the borrowee, the microcredit that she borrowed from. So meaning it was like she was illiterate in a way, she did not go to school. So meaning that when she borrowed the loan, she didn't know the interest rate was high and one of the collateral would be land. So when she was not in a position to complete the payment by the period she was given, she took a life in the process because now the husband was aware of the incident. So this also became like, to us, we felt that it was also a way that women were being now targeted again by the microcredit institutions, being that most of them are illiterate, especially women coming from rural areas. And so that is why I mentioned that it was not only about land, but it became broader with other issues emerging also, like violence affecting women in the process, issues of suicide, issues of debts came in. So to us, we felt it was important as the women articulation of Kenyan Peasants League to start this advocacy, training women, educating women on the importance of not only their land rights, but also the impact of the microcredit institutions, impact of the multinational companies, because again, in the process, we realized they were targeting women with seeds, things like fertilizers, which again, were not going a long way, and being that they are also contributor to climate change. So we felt it was important for us to start the journey. Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of complicated issues. So first of all, concerning family and how land is owned, you said the women hold the land. Is that right?
Yes. Women own the land.
Uh-huh. Okay.
Yeah.
So I heard you say that the land is held by the women, but what happens is when the land is either passed on after the death of her husband, or in the case of her, inheriting land, that within the family, the woman can be killed.
Yeah, so like in the scenario of the widow that was killed, it was like the husband left her the land because ideally with the traditions that, because there are culture and traditions. So for this specific woman, she had the control over the land that the husband left her. But now the person who inherited her wanted him, he wanted the woman to give the land ownership to him. But when the woman realized that there was something fishy, she refused to sign the documents to him. So in the process, he murdered her.
I see.
Yeah. And because now he wanted it to look like an accident because it was a case we documented. But in the process, during the investigation, it came out that he was the one who murdered the woman. The idea was that once he murdered her, you could have control over the woman's land. But now when the issues emerged that he was the perpetrator in the whole process, I think from the documentation we did, it was like the mob caught up with him and he was killed in the process.
I see.
Yeah.
There's a lot of when I had written to you about these cases, I'd asked you about
Yeah,
patriarchal systems and feminism, and then the right for women to hold land. But in this particular case, if she died under natural causes, then the man would get the land anyway. So he murdered her to get the land.
exactly. Being that with the culture that was in place, there's I think when you talk about patriarchy, one of the norms that is being used, especially from some local communities in Kenya, is the wife inheritance issue, which again we are trying to address at the moment.
Mhm.
So realize that once the husband passed away, there is that culture whereby a woman is being forced to be inherited, either by the in-law, maybe the brother-in-law, or maybe the men. Maybe she will be forced into inheritance. So the idea is that the patriarchal system believes that a woman cannot have control over her land once the husband is dead. So they have that belief whereby that the woman needs to be inherited in order for her to have control over the land that has been left behind. Another issue that I think has come along is the issue of woman bearing only girls. So I think also that one was another problem, whereby you realize that if you are a widow and you gave birth to girls only, so that is whereby the issue of being chased out of the land came out. Because that one also is a case we documented, like three, whereby women were being chased because of giving birth to girls only. So the culture believes that because you don't have a male child, then you cannot have control over the property your husband left behind. So it means that now the in-laws will chase you out of the land and maybe they'll take control over it.
I see. I see.
Yeah, yeah. In as much as we have the Constitution of Kenya talking about equal rights, if you look into the Article 27 of the Kenyan Constitution, talks about the equal rights. And then if you look into the United Declaration on the Right of Peasants and other people working in rural areas, Article 17 talks about right to land. Article 4 talk about no discrimination against women. But again, we still realize that women still face these norms that are there in place. So what we are currently trying to do at the moment, I think in 2023, we started engaging in the policy processes whereby now we're having the community dialogues, calling men and women and also highlighting the policies that are in place that protect the women's rights. Because we've gotten a lot of cases around women being chased out of land. And I think in the process, it motivated us as the Women Articulation to construct a rescue center, which we currently have. The idea was to, because in Migori we had a lot of cases coming out, so we decided we did a fundraising and we bought a land, we constructed a center which has some rooms. The idea was to have that space for women, especially those who are being chased away from land, and then the issue of violence again emerged. So the space was to accommodate these women as maybe we do follow up with the cases that were coming in. And I think it has really helped a lot of women in the process. And then again, realize at the moment, again, now the community, like the place we have the rescue center now, you realize that now men are realizing that again, if they maybe go against the right of a woman, then there's a channel that can be used for reporting, especially widows, being that they're the most targeted in the process compared to the married women, which again realize, yes, they might experience that, but maybe they'll go back to the husband in as much as they're facing a lot of oppression. Because again, I mentioned earlier the issue of the cultural norms. So realize that we are also, in Kenya, we are in a society whereby they believe that as a woman, in as much as you're experiencing violence or whatever, you need to stay in that marriage. So I think it is also another journey we are trying to take to ensure that women are not facing violence. Because like I mentioned, we focus more with the peasants women. These are women who are working on the field 24/7. But again, realize their rights are being violated, not only within their homes, but also within the field. Like
Let me
another
let
issue
me
that
let me ask you in the cultural norms in the culture, did you say the woman has to stay with the man even if he's violent? Did you?
yeah, yeah. Yes,
Can you talk a little bit about that?
there are local communities that believe, because one thing we realize is that women are staying in violent marriages, but again, to them, because the way the culture has been put, they believe that now it is not violent, it is the culture which they need to respect, in as much as their rights are being violated.
I see.
Yeah.
And you're working to find a way to change the culture, around, at least the culture of violence around this issue, which, but by doing interviews with numerous women, in this case, related to the land, but it's also related to violence in the family. Have you had any positive movement in changing the culture in this area?
Okay, I think one thing we talk about when we talk about the issue of culture, it becomes sensitive, especially in the community. But now we are trying to tell them culture is not bad because they're there to guide. But now we are looking into the aspect of the oppressive cultures that
Right,
are put
the
in place.
oppressive part, right.
Yeah. Yeah. So we tell them that we have the policies and then we have the cultures. So the two, you realize that the culture is saying this, but the policy is saying this. So what we are trying to do currently is also to educate them to disrespect the oppressive cultures. Because to me, I feel it is oppressive. Let me bring the story of my mother, who is a widow. So
Yes, please.
father passed on, when my father passed on, that was in 1989, I was still young. And then my mother grew up being a widow, and she faced a lot of oppression from my uncles because they believed she was a woman and she did not have a right to own a land. So until in the 2020, whereby she started following up on the issue of the title deed, which now she had to transfer the name of my father from the title to hers. But realize in the process she has faced a lot of threats, because I remember there was a time she used to call us telling us how they are threatening her. If she does not leave the land, they will murder her. If she does not do this, so because she was a woman. So I think that is one of the issues that motivated me to started also again championing for the women land rights, because I was wearing my mother's shoes, whereby she was facing all these violations from my uncle. But again, realized that in the process, she felt weak as a woman, being that there was no one who was there to maybe stand for her or maybe fight for her. So I think through the land rights advocacy that we started, it has also made a big impact, a positive impact for her, because every time she is that we are documenting the cases. I think she also sometimes calls me and tell me there is a case we received, because through the advocacy, it made my uncles backed down into harassing her or maybe threatening her to leave the land. So to me, I feel that was one of the positive impact that it made, because the argument was that they were talking about culture and she was a woman. And I told them, because now she has the title deed in her name, they don't have a right to harass or to threaten her, being that even there are laws that can maybe take a course into them and maybe they become arrested in the process. So with that fear, they had to back down and leave alone. So my mother is one of many women who maybe went through a lot, but they could not be able maybe to use the right channel to also access the title deed into their names. So that is why I mentioned that most of the widows become target, because realize most of them are even unaware of the proper channel to follow, maybe to acquire the land title into their names. So making them more vulnerable to the perpetrator when it comes to land rights. So I think that with the process when it started in 2018, up to now, we are saying that at least it has made a bit of milestone, because now women are understanding that they also have a right to not only access but also own land. If it is the married women, we encourage them to ensure that their names are also included in the land title. If it is the young girls within who are still living with their parents, we also educate them about the right in the articles of the Kenyan Constitution, whereby it talks about them also having access to land when it comes to farming. And then when it comes to widows, again, now we are pushing, because I think we recently also concluded our 60 days of activism activity. And I think one of the issues that emerged strongly was widow again voicing out on them being excluded in the land decision making, especially by the in-laws. And I think one of the media briefing we did, maybe I will share with you a link later, you can look at it, was though she's talking in our local language, no, it will be hard to understand. But again, realize that one of the issues, because she's a widow, they have a group. We invited them to the activity. And she was talking about the reason as to why she started also the group is because most of the widows were facing a lot of violation when it comes to land. And then again, not being excluded. And then when they go to report the cases, they are being told to go back and settle it as a family, which again leave them to be more vulnerable, especially to the family members. So I feel that it is still a long journey, especially in advocacy for the women land rights, in order for women maybe to achieve or to have that land. Another issue that came is the issue of the farm produce, because I realized that women majorly are the ones who are doing a lot when it comes to farms. But again, husbands, the men, are the ones who take control over the produce that came from the farm. So this one becomes a vulnerable moment for women, being that they cannot make any decision from the produce from the farm. So men take control, men take to the market, decide on the market prices, leaving women behind. So this again is an issue that we are looking into as the Kenyan Peasants League Women Articulation, to ensure that now men are understanding the work women are putting in the fields to produce food, and to ensure that when they are making decisions on the taking the produce to the market, what is left in the homestead, the women should be included in these decisions.
I got it. So what you're saying, the women are actually producing the food. In fact, Africa, probably the largest amount of food is produced by women, right? And
Yes.
the men have, of course, a patriarchy, and they basically seize the production from the women, and then they go to the
Yes.
markets.
Hmm.
What kind
It is
of
happening.
strategy? Okay, yeah, sorry.
Okay, it is happening because it is a testimony from the women. We usually have the women meetings, and these are testimony coming from women themselves, sharing what they are facing when it comes to the decision, especially on the farm produce, on the market prices, and also what needs to be left in the house. So realize that men are taking control. And I think last year, there was a case I was handling personally of a woman who came home and she found out that the husband sold all the produce she had harvested from the farm. And not only the farm produce, but also the chicken she has been rearing. And when she confronted the husband, she was brutally beaten, brutally, until she was admitted in the hospital. So this is a case I was personally following, and when we started doing the procedure of following up the case, the family intervened, whereby because to us there was evidence from the doctors, whereby the woman was brutally beaten, and we felt that the case was to be reported to the police. But when the family intervened, they said that they're going to handle the issue in a family way. So that is another challenge that we experience, whereby we realize that there is a case of a woman. But again, now the family intervene and they say they will handle it, just like that we was talking about, whereby they are being told to take the matters back and handle it in a family way. So we try to push, but again, they convinced the victim to drop, not to report the case. So there is nothing we could have done. But it was really, really bad case last year. So one of the issues because I personally called the husband when I got the case, and I told him that if the incident repeat itself, because now the family refused to report the case, and then we told them that we'll personally take the matter into our own hand and maybe report it, being with the first issues that emerge. So it is just one of the cases that we have received of what I was telling you about women not being excluded in the produce in the market, or the making decision from the farm produce that they have been harvested, in as much as they have done a lot in the farms.
Susan, let me ask you, what is your life like when you're traveling from the village to Nairobi and back and forth. You're dealing with policy, you're dealing with social work, you're dealing with agroecology. How do you handle this?
I balance because sometimes you receive a case and you cannot assume it. Being that already, when you started training women on the land right issues and the violence, they put a lot of faith in us. So they believe that we have solution, which we don't have. We try our level best to ensure that we get solution for them. So I realize that sometimes you get cases and you see how can I balance my life, my family, the cases I'm getting. Also, I need to focus on my farm at the same time. So sometimes it is not easy, it is difficult. So, what sometimes I do when I find myself maybe being preoccupied, especially with my farm work, and there are cases emerging because I don't do it alone. We have a team of women in the Kenyan Peasants League who are supporting with the processes. So maybe I can delegate to them and tell them, can you do a follow up on that case? Can you do a follow up on this? Document it. And then maybe when we meet, we put our thoughts together and see how we can do a follow up on it. But again, sometimes because I'm also a human being, and sometimes I feel that I get that burnout, or sometimes you get emotional,
Yes.
detached. I just remove myself from the whole process. I just switch off so that I can also regain my energy because by the end of the day, I'm also a human being. I sometimes also go through my personal issues. And, sometimes people don't, when you say you're also going through some personal issue, people don't see it that way. People believe that because you're handling theirs, you can also handle yours as well. So what I do is I just withdraw. Even if it is 1 month or 2 months, I withdraw and maybe have that space for myself, rethink, re-energize, and maybe get more energy to go back and maybe I can now focus on the work I'm doing. Like currently, I had said to myself that from 18th December, I'm having my own space, just me and my family, maybe until next year, December 10th. It will be enough time to energize, to have my spirit back. And then maybe when I pick from January now, I will be more energized.
Yes, I'm so happy to talk to you. I've been speaking with Susan Owiti, the Secretary General of the Kenyan Peasants League, La Via Campesina, on women and land. I hope to come back and talk to you about seeds also sometime. So thank you very much.
Yeah,